Species Program Manager with TRPA.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you all for coming tonight. Before you see the really neat presentations with all the really cool slides and all the really cool science, I get to stand up and give you the history and the program structure and all the boring context. But I just want to start out with something. Those of you who heard me talk on this topic before, you've heard me say this. I'm going to say we a lot in this presentation. Now, I work for the Thayer Regional Planning Agency, but when I say we, I don't mean the Thayer Regional Planning Agency. I mean this broad multi-agency private-public partnership program that we're going to be talking about tonight. So there's a lot of people in this room that are working really hard to make this happen, and that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying we. It's not just TRPA. So start with a little history. Work on aquatic invasive species in the Lake Tahoe region really began in the mid-90s with some comprehensive lake-wide invasive plant surveys that were conducted by Dr. Anderson, who's here tonight. From those and with various other things that were going on, in 2006 we really got our first really pretty good sized chunk of funding from the Bureau of Reclamation. This funding went to the Tahoe Resource Conservation District and to Cal State Parks and California State Lands and to TRPA, and that was really the first on the ground effort to try and do weed control in the basin, and that was in Emerald Bay. And that's kind of the way that the program sat for just a short while. This core of dedicated staffers that were trying to get something done as part of this weed effort. Then in January 2007, the first quagga mussels were found west of the 100th meridian Lake Mead. And that really started things changing with the Tahoe program. It was kind of a wake-up call that this is not something that we can move slowly on. We have to take action fairly quickly. We were seeing what was happening down in southern Nevada. In May 2007, there was what was originally scheduled to be a weed workshop to talk about milfoil and curly pondweed and such in Lake Tahoe. But given what was occurring down in southern Nevada, it became this broader AIS workshop. And at this workshop, we not only gathered concerned members of the public and stakeholders and academics from around the country, but we also brought together executives from various basin agencies. And they came together and they realized that we need to do something about this, and we need to do something about this now. And from that meeting, a couple of things happened. One, the Fish and Wildlife Service stepped up and they said, okay, we're going to hire a coordinator to coordinate efforts in the Lake Tahoe Basin, and out of that came a Fish and Wildlife Service Tahoe AIS coordinator position, staffed by Mr. Steve Chilton, who we'll be talking a little bit later. Other things that came out of it, one thing they said, well, the basin executives were talking, and the then director of the Tahoe Science Consortium said, I'll go ahead and put together a committee. So he put together this Lake Tahoe Aquatic Invasive Species Coordination Committee. This committee, which is made up of mid-level managers from all basin agencies that have a primary responsibility for land management, AIS functions in the basin, was established back then. The other thing that came out of that through funding through the Army Corps of Engineers and action by the Coordinating Committee and the efforts of Tetra Tech out of Portland was a Lake Tahoe Regional Aquatic Invasive Species Management Plan. I know it's just another plan, but this plan actually is more than just another plan in a basin full of plans. This is actually a really important document because this plan was it was supported by both the governors of California and Nevada, so it had bi-state support. This is actually the signing ceremony that happened in August of 2001. It was then elevated to the Federal Aquatic Nuisance Species Task Force back in DC, who actually approved this plan. And what this plan does is this puts us on the same level in the Tahoe Basin with California, with the California state plan. Colorado, Utah, Oregon, Washington, all these are state plans. So it elevates us in terms of our organization to a lot of other states in the union. It's a very important thing to have. This plan really functions as the backbone of the program. And so to get into a little bit of the structure, this program, the Lake Tahoe Aquatic Invasive Species Program, is really divided up into three different goal effort areas based on three goals of the program: to prevent, the introduction of aquatic invasive species into the Lake Tahoe region, to control and abate and prevent the spread of those that currently exist, and to monitor to make sure that we don't, if something does make it through our prevention program, we'll be able to detect it early, rapidly respond, and do the best job we can in taking that out. So within these different goal areas of the program are different sub-programs and projects. For example, watercraft inspection, that falls in this one prevention category. Ken Caseman from TRP will be talking about that a little bit later. When I'm talking about control, what am I talking about? This control goal area, this is where all our weed management projects come in. Patrick Stone will be talking to you a little bit about that a little bit later as well. Also, Asian clam removal. Dr. Schladow from UC Davis is going to be talking about this project, and it's under our control program in terms of our management activities, but this is one of the real good examples of how science and management are working really closely together in the basin to address an issue. Also, the Tahoe Keys project. Dr. Anderson was talking about that. Another example of how researchers and managers can work together, in this case, in cooperation with the Tahoe Keys Property Owners Association, really close partnership between agencies and academic institutions and research and private property owners. And then, last but certainly not least, in terms of control projects, this year we're talking about non-native fish removal. And Jay Rowan at the Cal Fishing Game will talk to you about that later. Again, all these projects, these individual projects and programs fall underneath our umbrella of trying to control species that are already here. And lastly, you're not going to have a presentation about it, but equally important is under this monitor goal area, we're talking about early detection. There is a program that we have. We get this, question on, well, how would you know if we had something? We go out and we conduct early detection monitoring. Last year it was primarily for bottom zebra mussels. We used plankton toads out in the lake. We're expanding that this year to include other species, visual detection, so we should be able to make sure that if something comes in, we'll be able to know about it. This is also where we talk about status and training. We're redoing this year, and I think Patrick will touch on this a bit, redoing some of Dr. Anderson's Lake White studies so that we know what is going on. Are we making progress when it comes to the Lake White control of weeds? So, a little bit more about the structure in terms of how do we get things done. Well, this is the coordinating committee that I talked about. These are some of the agencies. Of course, I threw up all the acronyms, and I have to actually describe them. Can't expect y'all to know. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, USDA Agricultural Research Service, Nevada Department of State Lands, California Parks and Rec, California State Lands, U.S. Forest Service, Nevada Division of Wildlife, California Fish and Game, and Tahoe Resource Conservation District. This is the core agencies that are actually determining what the work program is for the year. So, everything that you're going to hear about that's going on this year, the funding was approved and scheduled and everything through all these folks. This group is the kind of the center of the program, and that this is where we coordinate with our stakeholders and public. That's why we're having this meeting tonight, so that you can hear what's going on and you can let us know what you think. We also communicate up to executives. We don't have an established executive committee at this point, but we're really using the normal basin structure of the Tahoe interagency executives for that. This is really where the work gets done here at these subcommittees. This is where we have, basically for every project that you're going to hear about tonight, there is a group of dedicated individuals from multiple different private entities and public entities and research institutions that work on these various taxa or project-specific subcommittees. We got about 40 partners all in all, and they handle everything like from weeds, inspections, and everything else. So this is where the work really, really gets done on the ground. And just to finish up, I think it's one thing that when you're thinking about this program, it's really important to that all the people that are working to make this happen, and like I said, a lot of them are in the room, and this program wouldn't be near as strong if it wasn't for the multi-agency partnership. I know I'm well under my time, but that gives more time for others. So thank you very much.